All right, here we are live. Let me check everybody to see if I'm going to refresh this page, make sure it comes up as live over here as well. There we are. Yes. All right. So, welcome everybody. Before we get started, I would love to know if you could leave a message in the chat. Please let us know if you can see us and hear us. Wow, I see that we have 10 viewers already. That's fantastic. You 10 viewers, please tell us if you can see us and hear us. And I'm going to chat that too, just in case you can't hear me.
Hello, everybody, and welcome. Just testing to make sure you can hear me as well as Lia Sensei.
The 7. All right, here we go. Video and audio is great, says Joe. Thanks, Joe. Lydia from Berlin. Thank you. Thank you. Okay, this feedback is so helpful, guys. Now, you noticed I said Lydia from Berlin. I happen to know that. I don't know where Joe is from. So if you could also, oh, and Laura, hello, hello. If you guys could also, in the chat, put your city and country, I think that would be super fun. I always love to know where people are tuning in from. Last Sunday, we had people from the Netherlands, Algeria, USA, where else? A bunch of different places. So anyway, please put in the chat where you are tuning in from, and then we'll move in. Oh, Ray Dawn, good. Representing Los Angeles. Aikido Kenkikai Los Angeles. Chris from Brasilia. How could I have forgotten? That's where you were. That's the other country I forgot about from last week. Yeah, great. We've got Laura from Berkeley, it looks like.
Thank you, Laura.
Fantastic. Columbus, Ohio. Okay. Fantastic, fantastic. Anybody new who just joined, please put your city and country in the chat, just so that we know where people are tuning in from. All right, without further ado, welcome everyone. Welcome Kayla Sensei.
Thank you, Lia Sensei.
There are a couple of things before I give Kayla Sensei a better welcome. Oh, more from Berkeley, some from Oakland. Fantastic. I interrupt myself a lot when I do these live streams, but it's just exciting for me.
Flows.
Yeah. So there are a couple of things before I give Kayla Sensei a better introduction. First of all, whether you sign up for the Aikido Summer Seminar in May or not, we're going to send you a gift after this live stream. Okay. So please check your email after the live stream. That gift is this printout. And also, if somebody could tell me in the chat, I just want to make sure, is this backwards or can you read it naturally? Anyway, this is what we're going to send you. It is my Aikido seminar prep sheet. Again, backwards or forwards, let me know, please. And it has the top 5 benefits of attending an Aikido seminar. And it also tells you the 7 most important things to remember when you're attending a seminar so that you can get the most value for your seminar experience. Things like don't be afraid to train with senior people if you're a beginner. Things like don't get there on time, get there early to forge friendships and relationships, all kinds of things that I think are really helpful. So check your email after the live stream. Another very important thing, towards the end of this live stream, I'm going to open up the registration for the Aikido Summer Seminar in Los Angeles. And as I said earlier, the super early registration, I didn't say that earlier, the super early registration just closed last Friday. Now we're in early registration. The difference is you still get the same discount with both of them, but the super early registration also included a gift from me, 1 month free complimentary membership to my virtual dojo. So we're extending that for members of this live stream today. So about halfway through this live stream, we're going to open that up. And anyone who registers for the seminar today, you'll get the super early registration deal, even though that's closed. Okay? So things to be aware of and take advantage of if you're interested. All right. So here we go. Again, welcome. It's my pleasure and honor to welcome Kayla Feder Sensei. I'm going to read Kayla Sensei's bio, and then we'll get into questions. All right? Oh, and great. Mahika, you just let me know that you can read it naturally. And Laura, perfect, perfect. Okay. Here we go. Kayla Feder Sensei is the dojo cho at Aikido of Berkeley. In 1973, at the age of 9, Kayla Sensei fell in love with Aikido and has been dedicated to growing in the art and training continuously for 48 years. I think
Actually,
that's 50 now, right? Yeah.
we changed the website since you got.
For the first 20 years of her practice, she was greatly inspired by training under Morihiro Saito Shihan, who was one of the founder's closest students. In 1980, Kayla Sensei traveled to Iwama, Japan, to train with Saito Shihan as an uchi deshi, or live-in apprentice. During subsequent trips to study Aikido in Japan, Kayla Sensei trained under a number of other Shihan who were close to the founder, among many Kisshomaru Ueshiba, O-Sensei's son, Seiichi Sugano Sensei, Motomichi Anno Sensei, and Kazuo Chiba Sensei. Since childhood, she has also practiced with and been strongly influenced by Frank Doran Shihan, Robert Nadeau Shihan, and Hiroshi Ikeda Shihan. Kayla Sensei has taught seminars throughout the US, excuse me, Europe, and Israel. In addition to her Aikido accomplishments, she received a master's degree in holistic health education from JFK University in 1998. Kayla Sensei recognizes that we all have different bodies, histories, ages, and learning styles. She's dedicated to making Aikido accessible for anyone who wants to train at Aikido of Berkeley. Her teaching style supports the individual growth of each student. She has created a warm and welcoming community at Aikido of Berkeley. Kayla Sensei also includes yoga and meditation practices as part of the training at Aikido of Berkeley. She views Aikido as a holistic art and has said, "There is no end to the growth and learning we aspire to through our Aikido practice, both on and off the mat." She continues to dedicate herself to the daily process of changing and growing within herself and her practice and teaching of Aikido. Welcome, Kayla Sensei. Okay. Now, first of all, we're going to jump into some questions that Kayla Sensei, Vince Sensei, and we prepared these questions. So we'll start here. In the meantime, please, actually, no, you know what? Let me change that. I see that we've got one question in the chat so far. Yeah, never mind. Interrupting myself again. If you would like to write questions in the chat as well, we can absolutely mix questions from our prepared ones to the ones that you send. Okay? We're going to start with one of the ones that we prepared, though, and then we'll see if anybody's got any questions in the chat. So, Kayla Sensei, our first question is a really basic but important one, I think, and one that everybody's really curious about, I think. It is, what influenced you most and set you on your course to becoming an Aikido practitioner and now instructor?
I'm laughing because my sister just sent me a message saying that there's a curl sticking up somewhere.
Wow.
And I want to, so if that curl's still sticking up, let me know and I'll put it down.
I love your curls.
Uh, Before I go into the answer, I want to just want to acknowledge you, Lia Sensei, for putting this together. I know how much work this takes, and I know how dedicated you are, and you have things going out to the world all the time. You know, live streams and interviews and online classes. Just I really just admire how much time and energy you put into your outgoing energy to the world in Aikido. I
Thank you,
want to thank
Kayla
you for that.
Sensei.
You never, you know, you can't tell from here how much energy and time you put into it before we even got here. So
Nice.
I just want to acknowledge you and thank you. Yeah.
Thank you.
Um, yeah. So I think that question was how was I most influenced by my,
I'll read it again. What influenced you most and set you on your course to becoming an Aikido practitioner and now instructor?
well, what influenced me most, to be honest, was my mom.
Nice.
My mom, I am so, my mom and my dad, my sister, very, just so supportive. But my mother had and still has her own business and her own therapy practice. And she's been my, she's been my guiding light, you know, and then of course, O-Sensei, what a guiding light. I have some pictures to inspire you guys. Look at
Nice.
that smile.
Beautiful.
But my teachers, you know, Saito Sensei, my first teacher when as a child was also an incredible teacher, uh, but was also quite abusive. And I think some people listening might know. I'll say his name. It's fine. Bruce Klickstein was an awesome athlete and an incredibly good instructor, and I became inspired and in love with Aikido immediately.
Hmm.
Luckily for me, you know, I was then able to do a lot of training with Saito Sensei and Saito Shihan. He, as most of you know, was O Sensei's one of O Sensei's longest uchi deshi and an amazing teacher and instructor. The clarity that he gave us with the techniques was very special. Um, you know, as it turns out, O Sensei was kind of he was brilliant. He was I think he was, you know, sort of, there's a word that's in on the tip of my tongue, but it's not coming quite yet. He was just one of those people who was so brilliant. I think he could learn things very quickly, and I think Sakeda, his jujitsu instructor, was also,
Mm.
um, and I think that neither one of them really thought about having a pedagogy to teach Aikido. How, you know, very clear. This is what you do and how you do it and how you get from point A to point B.
Mm.
Saito Sensei, though, was a master at categorizing, and I think there were other of the Uchideshi who did so as well. But he was able to take the techniques and categorize them in such a way so that we could study Ikkyo through Yankyo, Gokyo, Rokyo, whatever, and we could say this is where you put your hands and this is where you put your feet.
Mm. Mm.
So I was, you know, greatly influenced by him, and always, you know, every day I get on the mat, I feel gratitude to Saito Sensei that I was able to study with him directly and to get that, you know, that lineage from O Sensei to Saito
Mm.
into the body.
Mm.
I I realize we have a lot of questions prepared, but as I speak, I'm inspired to just, it just kind of takes me to the next thing, you know.
Yeah.
Um,
Feel
so
free.
I'll say that, you know, I think a lot of artists may agree with me. I use this little sentence from Picasso. He says, uh, "Learn the rules like a pro, so you can break them like an artist,
Nice.
you
Nice.
know. Yeah. And
Yeah.
I want to thank our viewers for coming. I know that many of you, kind of probably got up early because this is daylight savings, and I'm grateful. So that word gratitude, that's where I was going when I said that one question's kind of draws me. The the way that Aikido is practiced, in my opinion, leaves so much room for gratitude
Mm.
and for space
Mm.
to open the heart. In Aikido, we bow in, and I grew up bowing in with two claps,
Mm.
which comes from the two claps is the way I've been told it happens when there's a traditional Shinto shrine that's being looked after by a Shinto priest.
Yep.
And when I went to Shingu the first time, they were clapping 4 times, and I fell in love with that. And I kind of broke tradition for the first time from my Iwama lineage, and decided in my dojo, probably 25 years ago, I said to everybody, we're going to start clapping 4 times. And that elongates the process of beginning and ending the class.
Mm-hmm.
And so it gives us these moments to sit every day when we get on the mat and we bow in and bow out, gives us these moments to give gratitude and to take a moment to stop and be in this present moment.
Mm.
Those claps are to wake the spirit. Those claps
Mm.
are to wake the kami, and they're also to bring us together as a group. Um, it just, I love that. I love that tradition.
Yeah.
And so again, that beginning with Saito Sensei gave me some really special tradition to get to go to Iwama and live there. He's such a great influence.
Mm.
He
Nice.
looks like this big, scary guy, but actually being thrown by him was one of the most amazing experiences of my life. He
Nice.
never hurt me,
Yeah.
never threw me too hard.
Yeah.
Grabbing his wrists was like grabbing onto a really solid but soft pillow.
Nice.
So
Nice.
effective and yet so gentle, at least
Mm.
my experience. And I feel very grateful for that.
Nice. Nice. Thank you. Let's take a look at the next question. Yeah.
Okay. Yeah.
Okay. Um, hmm. This maybe you've already answered this. We can move on to the next if so, but I'll read it. What's something your teacher said or embodied that was unique and you now embody or practice?
Hmm.
Should I read it again?
No, that's
No.
okay.
Okay.
Um, I think, I think Saito Sensei was passionate about Aikido. I'm sure of it. And that passion, just he was able to exude that passion, and certainly at a young age I drew that in.
Mm.
But for me, I think I think the most important part of my training in Aikido are O-Sensei's words. Um, I could just kind of bring it down to one little sentence. That he says, "Aikido is a matter of the heart,"
Nice.
and I felt that from Saito Sensei. He didn't actually say it, but
Hmm.
feel it. Hikimichi, his feeling.
Nice. Nice. Nice.
And
Wonderful.
I do say some of his, there's when I teach Morote Dori Kokyuho, he said, um, elbow, shoulder, center, spirit, drop. And I
Wow.
think about that a lot.
Nice.
Elbow, shoulder, center, spirit, drop. And you can you can take that little phrase and put it into everything you do.
Yeah. Good point. Beautiful. Third question. What are
Yeah.
you most looking forward to about Aikido Summer Seminar in Los Angeles?
Sharing.
Yeah.
Sharing, being shared with and sharing.
Nice. Yeah. I don't know if you caught my interview last week and Vince Sensei's interview the week before that, but we both said the same thing:
Oh,
fellowship,
oh,
sharing, alchemy. So nice.
and working together, collaborating is just, there's
Yeah.
nothing collaborating.
Yeah. Yeah.
Open
Wow.
up to the people who come to the seminar and to each other. And, why not always learn every
Yeah.
moment
Yeah. Yeah.
from each other?
That's really cool that Vince Sensei and I both basically said yes, the alchemy, the sharing and the collaboration, how we get inspired by each other's classes. And then we realized last week, like, oh, wait a minute, we forgot another part, is that we often get inspired by looking at the students, like what you just said. We look, oh wow, there's, oh boy, my next interview, I'll give you the short version of this story. My teacher, when he was seventh or eighth Dan, um, one time my senpai asked him, "How did you come up with this really innovative looking ikkyo that was kind of going off to the side?" And he said, "Oh, I was watching Yamaoka-san one day and I thought I would try it her way." At the time of that story, Yamaoka-san was fifth Q
Whoa.
and doing it quote unquote wrong. And he looked and went, "Oh, there's an interesting element in there. I'm going to try that." Anyway, sorry to
Yeah,
hijack the
I'll say
interview.
a couple of years ago when Nadeau Sensei was here, um, training in his class, his Ikkyo Urawaza, I changed changed it, and
Yeah.
it we need to stay open, or the inspiration and the liveliness disappears. And O-Sensei
Mhm.
said that to us
Yeah.
constantly. He said, if you die spiritually, emotionally, uh, in your in any part of your life, if you shut down, then you're
Yeah.
as good as dead. And he's just like, isn't that one of his signposts, just telling us, you know keep growing, keep looking, see, keep searching, learn from your students, learn from each other.
Yes, absolutely. Let's move to the next question. What have some of your biggest challenges been, either as a student, as an instructor, both, either one?
I'm laughing again because last night I had dinner with my mom and my stepdad, and I went over
Mhm.
the questions with them briefly.
Nice.
when when I read that question, the first thing I did was that. I went, "What are some of your biggest challenges?" Right there.
Uh-huh. Yeah.
It's like a double-edged sword, where if we look at the sayings of all the saints and the wise beings who have lived before us, don't they all say it's all here? You
Mm,
have it all within you.
nice.
Each one of us has everything. We are divine beings. And
Mm,
yet we have this thing, this incredible brain,
yeah.
and it's so complex and complicated, and yet it gets in our way a lot.
Yeah.
It's self-doubt and self-criticism, just what you and I were talking about
Mm,
before we went on,
yeah.
that we can be so positive and so open, and yet we can also, be self-critical, judgmental of ourselves and others. And it's the awareness of those things, that's
Mm,
so important. But yeah, so the question was, what are some of my greatest challenges? And I would say, yeah, my own mind, my own self judgment. Like, I've been doing Aikido for 50 years, and it's been my life, and yet I still go through times when I'm teaching, especially, where I'm like, oh man, this sucks. I'm not. not getting across what I want to get across. I'm not, I could do this so much better.
Yeah.
I have to step back and say, okay, well, how do I do that? Well, by learning and growing and being open.
Yeah. If I can jump in and give some maybe unsolicited advice, but I'm just prompted to say this, hearing Kayla Sensei's words. Anybody listening here, if you're ever inspired by a teacher's words or a teacher's class, please don't hesitate. At least for me, speaking for myself, I think I speak for both of us and many others. Please don't hesitate. I mean, not in the middle of class, but after class or walking to the parking lot, whatever. Please don't hesitate to let the instructor know, because I myself have had people come up to me exactly after a class that I thought I didn't do a very good job. I've had them say, "Oh, Sensei, that tonight's class, all your classes are good, but there was something really special about tonight's." And I think like, "Oh my gosh, really? I thought it was a bad one." And they're like, "Oh no, you said this," and they start quoting me sometimes. And I'm like, "Oh, okay." And yeah. So don't hesitate to let us know when you find a class particularly inspiring.
Yeah, I agree.
Yeah. All right. Back to some others. These questions, we've got 2 questions about O-Sensei. And I found one of them very difficult to answer. I'm going to read both of them, Kayla Sensei. And if you want to just pick one, that's fine. Or if you want to do them both, that's fine. But anyway, the one question is, if O-Sensei came to your dojo, Kayla Sensei, how do you think he would coach you? What kind of interaction would there be? And the other O-Sensei question is, if you could ask O-Sensei one question, what would it be?
Yeah. Here he
There he is.
Oh, I just thought I'd share these with you guys. So since
Beautiful.
I love having him around my house.
Yeah.
So the second one was, if I could ask him one question, what would it be? And the first one was, if he came into, what was the first one?
If he came to your dojo, how would he coach you? Or
Yeah.
what would the interaction be like?
Okay. Well, the second question, and then the first question. The second one, what would I ask him? I would just ask him, like, are we on the right track?
There you
Are
go.
we? Aikido is this young art, and it's not a koryu. It's not a set thing that where you must do this thing, and
Yeah.
historically speaking, you must stick to this thing.
Right.
It is, I mean, it's a budo, it's a martial art, it has martial spirit, and it leaves huge room for creativity and growth, which I think is one of its delights and gifts. Again, the O-Sensei and the Sakaku Takeda thing, where these guys were brilliant martial artists, but they did not leave us any pedagogy, really.
Right.
Nothing super clear. So I would ask him, with all the different people all over the world doing Aikido, I mean, billions of people, millions of people, how do you feel about the way we're doing it? My sense, he'd say, well, some of you are doing great. You're on the right track. Some of you, not so much. I don't know. I mean, isn't that always the case? If Beethoven were here and asked, how do you feel about the way we're playing your music all these years later? In some ways, that's different, because that music was very clear.
Oh,
So soft. This is crescendo. This is this is exactly what you're to do. We weren't given that with Aikido.
Right.
So there's a lot of confusion about, okay, there are a lot of people who have taken Aikido into amazing, wonderful fields of study, such as, you know, um, embodiment and trauma work.
Yeah.
Wendy Shihan, who passed away recently, did so much work with Aikido around self-healing, self-growth, healing trauma. And the beautiful thing about Aikido is that we can do that with it because it's an art of peace. It's called the art of peace. It's the martial art of peace.
Yeah.
Not that any arts that are not called that can't do this, but there's a specifically sort of softness to Aikido.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
Sensei said, he felt that women could perhaps get some of what he was talking about more easily because of that soft gentleness. So I would ask him, please tell me, first of all, am I on the right track? What can I do differently to do more of what you were doing? And
Mm.
sometimes I think about that question and I'll think to myself, I could see him saying, well, you need to go back and study jujitsu and and
Mm.
become masterful at other arts. Or sometimes I think he'd say, yeah, great, keep going, just keep learning and changing. Who knows,
Yeah.
I
Yeah.
think he could come to us,
Yeah. Yeah.
maybe he does come to I mean, I've had dreams with him.
Wow. Very
Yeah.
cool. Very cool. In,
Anyway.
in
And
my mind, he always tells me to take ukemi more, training with my students more.
uh
Yeah.
yeah, and that's something that I've been feeling lately is challenging for me. My
Mm.
body has been doing Aikido for 50 years.
Yeah.
And back in the day, in the specific, especially the style I grew up in, every throw was a high fall, up, down,
Mm. Mm.
really hard mats.
Yeah. Yeah.
And I want to take ukemi for my students all the time. I love it. But
Yeah.
and lately I sit more and watch a little bit more than I used to.
Yeah.
Um, just to give my back, my knees, my hips, my ankles a break.
Yeah.
I do take. I think there was a question about how to stay and how somebody said they were going to ask a question about how do I keep. Suzanne was going to ask a question about how do you keep your body going and in shape.
Nice. Yeah.
I can answer that if
Um,
you want.
yeah, I was just going to say, why don't we branch out into these other questions? So, I don't see the one that you're talking about. I don't see that in the list,
Lydia had a
but
question for me that she
but
wrote.
in our chat list, what we have, but I think we should finish this train of thought that we're on of, I like to say, budgeting the body.
Hmm.
So we have to budget the body, and my years in Japan also, it was go go go, and we were in our 20s and 30s,
Yeah, and
But
we did.
but I'll
Oh,
let you complete what you were saying. I don't want to hijack it. Sorry, I can't remember where we were, and you can bring in that other question if you want. I can't read it to you because I don't see the one that you're talking about in
oh,
our chat.
yeah, 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 Lydia. If you're there and you want to put it in the chat, I know you put that out to me a few days ago. You're welcome to. But
Nice.
yeah, how do we take care of the body? I mean, we need to listen to the body.
Yeah.
Um, I guess when I was growing up, we just didn't. We didn't know. Nobody told me if you go up and down on a hard mat over and over and over and over again billions of times, it might not be the best thing for the body. I think some high falls are really great and healthy, and they even make the bones stronger. But for kids, I was taking these falls on hard mats at 10, 11, 12 years old, and my teacher
Oh.
throw me across the dojo from
Oh.
the dojo to the, and what's going to happen when you land,
Yeah.
but
Yeah.
just pop right back up. But
Yeah.
I got my first hip replacement when I was 42. I mean,
Oh.
my mom has them too, but I
Yeah.
got mine at 42. She didn't get hers till she was 70.
Wow.
But okay, so the important question perhaps for the audience is how do we take care of our bodies?
Yeah.
We
Yeah.
we stretch and strengthen.
Yeah.
You listen, and so like lately, I want to keep taking ukemi for my students, and I have to. Sometimes I need to step back and watch, or even I have a big futon in the dojo. Sometimes I'll just go and sit there and observe.
Mm. Mm. Yeah.
I remember Duran Sensei telling me when I was probably in my 30s, and I think he has said this to many of his students. Um, you know, there's only so many high falls a body should take, and at some
Mm.
point you might want to slow that down.
Mm.
um,
Mm.
he Duran Sensei has so many great.
Yeah.
I gotta acknowledge him for a minute. His favorite is "Shut Up and Train."
Yeah. There it is. My favorite too.
Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah. Listen to the body. That might be the answer.
Yeah.
Answer.
And if I can interject, um, when right now, since COVID, we haven't built back up to the point where we can have a separate teens class. So we've got about anywhere from 1 to 3 teens training in with the adults every Tuesday and Thursday. And when we do Nikkyo, Sankyo, things like that, I either tell my adults, just do Ikkyo with him, because I don't want them bending joints of these youngsters.
Yeah,
And if I do have them do Nikkyo or Sankyo with these 11 and 12 and 13-year-olds, I tell them to stop the pin, stop the twist before they tap out,
yeah,
because it feels okay when you're 12 or 15 or whatever it is to be thrown across the dojo or to have your wrist twisted or something like that. It feels okay, but I've read things. I'm not a medical expert. And so I don't need to be a medical expert. I can forget the details of why it's not good and what I read, and just remember that, like, okay, we're not going to take this person to that level. But if I can continue my interjection, um, in my 20s and 30s, I just took ukemi till I couldn't stand back up again, and then I recharged for a couple of minutes, and I stood back up again, took ukemi till I couldn't stand up again. And I was lucky enough to have a teacher and senpai who they did a very a huge mix of my ukemi. The ukemi that was required from me was a big mixture, not all high falls. And when there were high falls, this sounds kind of crazy, but he was so loose that it didn't hurt the body. So that's another thing. As teachers, students are putting themselves in our hands, and
yeah.
this is not to be taken lightly.
No,
So anyway, that's enough of my hijacking
no, no.
the interview.
Like I said, I love to collaborate. I like
Nice.
hearing what you're saying, and it made me think about the fact that those of us who trained a long time ago and went to Japan and all that,
Mm.
I often wonder, is that is that really hard training necessary?
Well, but again, what do you mean by hard training?
Right.
Because
I
you
don't.
were at Iwama and I was at Takeda Shihan's dojo. And
Yeah.
those are two very, very different styles of Aikido. And so ours was really hard, uh, aerobically and mentally. And we were just dripping with sweat. But when I've trained with Iwama people, the landing is harder.
Yeah. And that is something that I've changed. I
Nice.
soft high fall when I
Nice.
hip replacement
Yeah.
15 ago. I stopped taking that kind of high fall, and we
Yes.
do them in my dojo.
Yeah. Nice.
And I know that Iwama style. I hate the word style, but
Yeah.
it's a word that serves a purpose.
Yeah.
I have softened and softened and softened and softened over the years, and
Nice.
Chiba Sensei and Saito Sensei, there was the training was not just aerobically hard, but yeah, it was very high impact on the body.
Yeah.
I am an advocate of the soft high fall and the roly practice, because we can take something that could be this way and make it this way. And isn't that Aikido anyway?
Yes.
Right?
Exactly.
We could something that's potentially extreme. If somebody punches you, you can catch the punch, or you can connect with it and redirect it. That is Aikido. Why not make the ukemi the same? For those who are watching who aren't familiar with Aikido, ukemi, uke, that word means to receive. So that's the person, generally that's the person who's attacking.
Yeah.
Uke. And the nage is the person, well, we could say throwing, but really the nage is the person blending with the attack, redirecting, and creating a flow.
Yeah.
So, Lia, thank you, Sensei. Thank you so much for bringing that up, because my tradition was the fall was like, if you're going to do Aikido and blend with an opponent, why not learn to blend with the mat and the ground too?
Exactly.
The soft high fall is brilliant.
Yeah.
So to those people who have, developed it, like Jan Sensei.
Yeah.
Lots of other people who have just, and that the when we practice, when we're warming up and we roll back and forward and back and forward, and bringing that into the roly poly. Started doing that, I don't know, 40 years ago, but I didn't yet know how to take the high fall that way. And the cool thing about the roly poly is a brand new beginner can learn it. Can learn to blend with the ground. First day, roll back and forward, blend with the ground.
Exactly.
Just like we blend with each other.
Yeah.
And I just want to acknowledge something that's come into my mind many times before the interview and now. Being interviewed like this is an incredible gift, because, and I'm imagining you feel the same as the interviewee and the interviewer, how much we learn about what we're doing. Get this opportunity to share this way. If it were just you and I having a conversation, it would also be wonderful. And yet when we open it up to more people, it's so special.
It's really nice. Yeah.
Again.
Oh, thank you. I want to interrupt this train of thought, by the way, because I realize I'm saying this later than I had planned, because I got so involved in what we're talking about. So back to the interviewer with the timeline and everything, the tasks. I just we just had the registration options come up on the live stream page. So we're going to continue the interview, but if you refresh your page, if you're watching in our Meet the Instructors Lounge, just refresh that page and scroll down below this video, and you'll see the schedule for the May seminar, and you'll see a couple of registration buttons. If you're like, well, I'm not going to be in Los Angeles and I can't afford a plane ticket this year, it's been time. We've got remote attendance options too. In other words, you can jump on Zoom. Every teacher will have actually this microphone right here. And we've got the camera set up at the dojo and everything. So, and right now it's early registration. So anyway, refresh that page. And you know what? I'm going to send the link if anybody's watching us on. There we go. Okay, I just sent the link to this live stream lounge page. Wonderful. So if anybody's watching us just on YouTube, just click on that link in the chat that I just sent to the Meet the Instructors Lounge, and then you'll see the registration buttons. Again, anybody who registers today from those buttons will get not only the super early the early registration discount, but you'll also get what expired for everybody else last Friday, which is the 1 month complimentary membership to my virtual dojo, where we train live on Zoom once a month, and you get supplemental videos and downloads and all kinds of great supplements. So costs you nothing but your email address. Okay. Don't even have to put a credit card info in there or anything. All right.
Just amazing things that you together, Lia Sensei.
Thank you.
The world.
Who would have thought back in 2019 that that I would be doing all this stuff?
And isn't it a miracle that we can see each other and hear?
It really is. It really is. It's
my
very cool.
Us and some of my students.
Yeah.
Berlin and
yes.
Still.
Now let me interrupt again. Sorry. I want to make sure that we get to everybody's questions. So far, I see 3 questions in the chat.
Okay.
One from Laura, one from Lydia, one from Imajuku. That is Arjan in the Netherlands.
Wonderful.
So we've got Berlin and the Netherlands and Laura from Berkeley. Let's start with Laura. Hers was the first one. And she says, what inspired, you kind of already answered this, but just in case there's more, what inspires you currently in your own practice, Kayla Sensei?
I'll keep it short. Just keep growing.
Nice. Nice.
Inspires me to learn from my students and other teachers.
Perfect.
Keep growing.
Perfect. Then Lydia wrote, you always share special quotes with us during your seminars and classes. Which quote do you remember as inspirational? And how does this quote relate to the Aikido practice for you personally?
Well, I do have some favorites, that's for sure. But, all of O-Sensei's writings are beautiful. I go to Rumi and Hafiz a lot. Even Jesus, and of course, but they're all saying the same thing. Like I said earlier, it's a matter of the heart and being open. But I'll be specific with one. O-Sensei wrote some of his writings are very poetic, and some are actual doka, like specific poems, I think, that have particular lines. I think doka is short poem. This one I love because it brings nature in and all the elements. So here's the doka. I think this one is a doka. It's definitely a very poetic. He says, study the teachings of the pine tree, the bamboo, and the plum blossom.
Nice.
Evergreen, firmly rooted, and venerable. The bamboo is strong, resilient, unbreakable. The plum blossom is hardy, fragrant, and elegant. So, here he's giving us a signpost to study nature, to be as solid and and focused as a pine tree.
Nice.
As agile and bendable as a piece of bamboo, and then as subtle, and I think he even said to Bob Nadeau Sensei once, do the Aikido that cannot be seen.
Nice.
And this, I think that is that element, that hardy, fragrant, elegant. Fragrance isn't something we can see, something we smell, but we can't see it. And, that was that the 4 claps we do represent heaven, fire, water, earth. So that tree is the earth element. And the water is, the bamboo. Even the flower, because the flower needs water. And then the heaven element is that thing, those things which we feel but can't see, like our ki. We can't see it, but we can certainly feel it. I tell the kids in the kids class, when you walk into a room and there's a lot of joy in that room, you feel it. You walk into a room where there's a lot of anger and tension, you can feel that.
Yeah.
that O-Sensei gave us, it gives us everything we need. If we really pay attention, those words have everything we need. And then this one recently I found of Hafez. Some people say Hafez, some say Hafiz, but
Hmm.
these poets were so in touch with the divine. But he says, this sky where we live is no place to lose your wings. So
Hmm.
love, love, love.
Nice.
And also
Hmm.
the same, love your opponent. It doesn't mean let them trample you and kill you. It
Right.
means, do what you need to do to protect yourself. And he
Yeah.
even said, by protecting them, you protect their karma from
Yeah.
injuring you.
Nice.
So
Nice.
thank you, Lydia, for asking that question, because
Mm.
these wise beings that have come before us and are even around now,
Mm.
they've given us these words of wisdom, and if we can take them into our hearts and use them as we're studying, I think makes a big difference.
Yeah.
Why I often read something at the beginning of class to kind of get us to slow down and ground ourselves,
Nice.
before we
Nice.
load with our training.
Yeah. A couple of quotes that came to mind for me were one, the art of peace begins with you. Figure out, and then I forget the exact words, but something like, figure out what your mission is and what you can do to
Yeah,
spread it. And then another one that really gets me through some tough times is be grateful for hardship, setbacks, and bad people.
yeah, I love that one.
And something to the effect of, these are an essential part of training in the art of peace. I'm
Yeah,
like, oh,
oh,
okay, okay.
the best. And then, there's true victory is self victory.
Yeah. Yeah. Nice. We still have more questions, so I'm going to jump to this. Ariane Sensei from Imajuku Aikido. I'll give a quick plug. I'm going to be teaching there September 1st, 2nd, and 3rd in Amersfoort at Ariane Sensei's dojo, Imajuku Aikido. He says, I'm not sure if my question came through. Is there a difference noticeable in teaching in Europe and the US? He knows that both of us have taught in both countries. So, your thoughts on the differences when teaching in Europe and the US?
It's an interesting question. And my mind there's so many different ways to look at that. The first thing that comes to mind is humans are humans, and humans are humans are humans, and teaching is teaching is teaching. And I
Mm.
feel like, for me anyway, there's that. So there's a lot of similarities. But
Mhm.
the big difference for me is that when I go somewhere to teach,
Mm.
it's very concentrated. It's usually a weekend seminar, or
Mm.
even if I teach a weeknight at someone else's dojo, people come to that seminar mostly really open to learning and
Right.
changing. They've
Yeah.
made an effort to get there. So the
Hmm.
difference between teaching in my own dojo, where it's easy for all of us to get kind of lackadaisical, or
Yeah.
take
Makes
it for
sense.
granted. When
Mm.
I go teach a seminar, I feel like there's definitely a intensity that happens that's not there. It's different, and that's the big difference for me. And it's kind of like this interview. It's a chance for me and the group of people who are at the seminar, to enter into something very special and intense and
Nice.
concentrated, and it's a gift.
Yeah.
I'm always so grateful to get to be invited somewhere, to
Nice. Nice. Yeah, I find I agree with everything that you've said. I do, however, notice that in general, The older participants in Europe don't usually have the same or as many health problems that the older participants
Oh,
in the US have. I
that's
think I think because of the lifestyle, I have to be so careful when I teach in the US, and there's a lot of like over 50s or over 60s. um that half of them are standing, half or more are standing.
interesting.
And I mean, not me, I don't know, maybe my numbers are off, but it just seems that, I guess in Europe, there's more of like walking to the bus stop and getting on the bus and going here. And, and we Americans walk 10 feet to our car, and then we drive and drive, and then we walk 10 feet into a building.
Mm,
So that's one thing that I seem to notice. But
that's
everything else, exactly the same
I
thought.
know when people ask me about teaching abroad, my brain, I always go to the Netherlands because
Oh,
that's the first European country I ever went to. I was 20
oh,
years and got invited to teach at a martial arts camp. And
nice,
I every year, almost every year until the pandemic, and then again last year. And the people are so open there to learning, and I
yeah,
always love teaching there. And
nice.
here I got to go to Berlin for the second time to
Hmm.
Aikido Berlin, and
Hmm.
that was an amazing experience because they did some really special things. They had a tea time with me
Nice,
where we just met together in this very lovely, cohesive group. They served us tea and miso soup.
nice.
We just people could ask questions. We talked and we had cushions.
Hmm.
There was a couch. It was so sweet. That's
Nice,
kind of
nice.
by like we there's a word I want. When things get more compacted and
Hmm.
uh,
Hmm.
what is that word? Anyway, yeah, but more intense because we're here
Nice.
for a specific amount of time with each other.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Nice.
Yeah.
Let me read you the next question, then I'm going to step away for a moment while you answer it. I need to take care of something.
Okay.
Um, Chris in Brasilia says, I was thinking about the quote from The Art of Peace. I'm not teaching you how to move your feet. I'm teaching you how to move your mind. How can I make this part of training for very young children? It seems too easy to overly focus on physical movements. So I'll step away. I'll be back in a minute or two.
Okay. That's a beautiful question. Um, Before Lia Sensei said, "How can I teach this to children?" my brain went right to, and I'll answer that question in just a moment. But my brain went to, as the longer I practice Aikido, the more I use my mind. And it's not that I use my body less, although the movements become smaller and smaller and smaller, and my mind movement becomes bigger and bigger and bigger. So, for instance, if I'm taking somebody's balance, I'm not just trying to move their body, I'm putting my mind behind them before I go behind them or before I take their balance. And with children, really, what a wonderful question, Chris. Thank you. Um, when I do teach kokudosa, sometimes I do it from standing, where we start with the hands neutral, have our partner grab, expand into the hand. It's funny that this video goes the other direction. I'm going to move here. So anyway, with kids, they come across from each other. If you're doing it from Suwariwaza, you have them touch knees, but if they're standing, you have them get toes to toes. Rather than in Hammi, you have them stand in Shizentai, their feet together like this. So that the wrists get grabbed, expand out. And when you expand out, you're expanding the wrist into your partner's palm, their power point. But you expand your mind as well as your body. So all the while you're talking about the body movement, you're also talking about your mind. Expand into their palms, become receptive, spiral in. Now, at this point, to take your partner's balance, to move them, if you just use your physical body and you push into their hands and their strength, it's it's strength to strength. And we know that there's always someone who's stronger and bigger than we are. So at that moment, you put your mind to feeling their back. You feel their back with your mind, and you even bring yourself there in your mind. And sometimes I have the kids do this where they close their eyes and imagine that they're already behind their partner, or imagine or feel their partner's back, and then move the hands. So I hope that answers your question. You can put it in the chat if so, or if not. If it brought up more questions, that's totally fine. But just a quick answer to the question is, bring the mind in as much as possible, because O-Sensei said mind, body, spirit. And your mind can be in your hand. Your mind can be in your wrist. My mind can go to my heart. My mind is at Lia Sensei's heart right now.
Nice.
And how we feel it. We can feel those things if we're open to it. So did that answer your question, Chris?
I think it was great. And and I'm just catching up on all these comments now and questions. So I think we have time for, and Chris says, yes, it did. It did answer her question. Fantastic.
And anybody who's here now, feel completely free to email me on my website.
Nice.
You can just go to aikidoofberkeley.com, and there's a place you can email me. That Lia Sensei has been plugging our seminar, and the seminar will be on my website as well.
Perfect.
And then you're all invited. My students are going to be throwing me a big party to celebrate 50 years in Aikido.
Nice.
And 40 years of running the dojo. So August 13th, which is a Sunday, I'll teach from 10:30 to 1, and then we'll have a big potluck celebration. And everybody's invited. All my Aiki brothers and sisters and colleagues around the world are invited to join. It's going to be a lot of fun.
Nice. Let me
But sorry.
wait, go. Sorry, no. My my bad.
Feel free.
I just want to make sure I'm not missing people. So we've got time for one last question, I think. And I really love this last question because we kind of neglected this in a way, maybe. Talita Gomez, Rocha or Roca, I'm not sure. I hope I said your name okay. She says, Sensei, what were your biggest challenges at the beginning of your practice? I'm still in the early belts. I'm really glad that she asked that. So that we can address beginners. I've got a couple things to say also. So Kayla Sensei, why don't you go ahead and then maybe add some things.
Yeah. Lia Sensei might be able to help with that better than I, since I started as a kid. And I was thinking about that this morning, because I started as a child. I think there were some challenges that I didn't have to deal with, but there were some that were hard, such as, my teacher was pretty abusive, and so my body was taking my body and my mind were taking a beating. I learned a lot from that. But I will say, because I've taught so many people throughout the years, I think my sense is that for brand new people in Aikido, it can be very overwhelming because there's so much to learn at first. And I'm a beginner at some other arts, and so I try to pay attention to what is it like. I've just taken up fiddle again, and what's it like to be a beginner? It's overwhelming. And Aikido, especially if you're in a class with advanced people, it can feel like, oh God, they don't want to practice with me, and I'm taking away from their training. So I'll say this to all beginners around the world: don't feel that way. it's our, yeah, it's our duty, and our duty sounds like not fun, but it's our joy. It should be our joy to spread the art and show and learn from you, like your sensei did, Lia Sensei, where you said he was in his Ikkyo got inspired by a fifth cue.
Yeah.
You inspire us, and you are, it's, you stand on our shoulders and move forward, and hopefully you'll get better, be better than we are.
Yeah.
So you're feeling challenged sometimes around criticize, that'll be the two things I'll say. If you're feeling like, oh gosh, I'm taking this advanced person away from their training, it's the opposite.
Yeah.
They should feel honored to get to work with you and show you and teach you and learn from someone who's just learning. And then the second thing I'll say is, notice the self-judgment. Notice it, notice it, notice it, and as much as you can while you're training, let it go. Come back to the present moment and just enjoy this period of being new at something. It's very special.
Yeah. Very nice. Thank you. Talita, I'm going to address your question as well. I didn't start Aikido as a child, but I was about 21 years old. So that's, I have no idea. Actually, in the chat, if you want to share your age with us, that will help me answer the question even better. And the reason that I say that is not to be ageist or anything, but it's very different starting a martial art when you're 22 as opposed to when you are 62 or 52, 42, even 32. So if I get that info from you, I can give you an even better question. But even without that info, I can tell you I started when I was 22. And I think it's important for people to know that, let me find the exact question again. Yeah, biggest challenges. So going way, way, way back to when I first started, my biggest challenge was my right side rolls. I could not, for the life of me, roll on my right side for my first 6 months. Like I was a lot slower than everybody else. And I could roll fine on my left side, and I'm right-handed. So that didn't make sense to me. I could roll fine on my left side. And for 6 months, every time I got almost into a roll on my right side, I would quick turn around and fall backward.
Oh, wow.
I just couldn't get over it. And come to think of it, I forget what I finally did to get through that. But I would train with different people, and some people were like, oh, you got to do this. No, put your foot like that. Now put your hand down like that. And I would get more nervous. And other people would be like, okay, cool. You can fall backward that way. Let's keep going, and that was really helpful for me actually, because of all the self-criticism and everything. So anyway, the point is, keep going when you come to physical shortcomings or glitches within your brain or your body. Don't give up. There's always a way, and you'll get there. And just know that I've been training over 40 years now, 6th Dan, and I couldn't do my right side rolls for the first 6 months, so remember that. And feel free to tell other people who are struggling with the rolls, like, oh yeah, well, Lia Suzuki couldn't do that for 6 months.
Yeah, that's so important. I think you touched on two super important things: the self-criticism and self-judgment. Be aware of it. It's part of being human, and it comes up on the mat a lot. I think the mat is almost designed as this, when I say the mat, for our viewers who aren't familiar, I mean the dojo, the training space. Actually, O-Sensei said you don't need fancy buildings. It's right here where you're standing. So at any point, but the mat itself, the dojo, is it's our laboratory. We get to look at ourselves and grow,
Yeah.
And, Laura's question, how do you get inspired now? I feel like a beginner a lot.
Yeah.
Like there's so much to learn still. So at 5th Q or 6th Q, wherever you are, the person who answered the question, we feel that way too. At
Yeah.
7th Dan,
Yeah.
I still feel, oh, wow, I'm just not doing that right today.
Yeah.
So give yourself a break and enjoy the process.
Yeah. The other thing I wanted to say to Talita, and now we have a little bit more information from Talita. She's in Brazil and she's 35 years old. So first of all, if I can make some assumptions, again, generally, I think we Americans drive more than everybody. So maybe anyway, you're not 65, 75 with a knee replacement or something, I'm guessing. So I'm making some assumptions, but anyway, I think that, again, give yourself a break, and if you can't get it today, maybe you can get it tomorrow, this part or that part, this skill, that skill, whatever it is, this movement, that movement. But I wanted to say one more thing was that, okay, I hate reading, by the way. I am not a reader. So I started Aikido, and there I was in Boston at Bill Gleason Sensei's dojo. And I would show up for class, I'd train hard. And one day, and this was, let's see, I was 6th Q actually from another dojo, just a few months at another dojo. I was 6th Q, so I had just started. And then I landed at Bill Gleason Sensei's dojo. And after a few months, I got really angry one day because I thought to myself, boy, these black belts, none of these black belts are coming and training with me, and this started to kind of fester in my mind over a few classes. And one day I said to myself, you know what? Too bad. I'm just going to go to those black belts and I'm going to say onegai shimasu and I'm going to train with them, whether they like it or not. And so that's what I did.
Yeah.
And they were like, oh, onegai shimasu. I just like went over, onegai shimasu. And they're like, ah, onegai shimasu. I got so many compliments at the end of that class. And they said, oh, wow, you had a great class tonight, Lia. And I said, yeah. And Bill Sensei said something too, like, wow, that was great. And I said, yeah, you know what? Those black belts, they're not coming over to me. I decided, too bad, man. I'm going to them. I'm going to chase them down and train with them. And there was a table full of us, there were like 6 people at the table, and there was a silence, when you've said something dumb, there's silence, a dumb silence. And you go like, art? And Bill Sensei goes, that's what you're supposed to be doing, chasing down the senpai.
Yeah.
And I go, ah. And one of the guys goes like, didn't you read the rules? They're framed and hanging outside the dojo, the rules and guidelines. And I was like, I hate reading. So anyway, Talita, that's another thing. At least in my dojo, at my seminars, if you're chasing down the senpai, and the person that I use for ukemi a lot, like, oh, I'm going to use this person a lot, chase those people down. And we used to monopolize our favorite senpai. If I could get to Numata Sensei, Seino Sensei, Yasu Sensei before someone else did when I lived in Japan, then I got to train with that person. These mats were crowded back in the day. And then if I got to train with him that one time, I was sitting down next to him because I wanted to train with him for the next technique too. And if I could turn to him before anybody else got there, I was going to train with him again. If I could train with him the whole class, totally monopolize that senpai, I did. So that's my recommendation to you. So yeah. All right.
Definitely.
Kayla Sensei, we're like, whoo, we went like way more time than I expected, which is a great sign. Anything? Yeah, let me give a last plug, and then we'll give you a last word if you want. Last plug, let me send this link one more time. So there's the link to the Meet the Instructors live stream lounge. And those of you who are already in the lounge, if you haven't already done so, if you refresh the page, then you can scroll down. You can see the schedule for the seminar in May, and you can see the registration buttons and the super early registration deal that expired on Friday. We are honoring that for you guys here on the live stream. If you want to sign up either for in-person attendance or virtual attendance via Zoom, today's the day. It's a great deal. It expired Friday. So there it is on that page. And the seminar, as you see in the video, it will be May 26th through 28th. Ikeda Sensei, Kayla Sensei, our esteemed guest today, Vince Salvatore Sensei, who was our guest 2 weeks ago, and yours truly, Lia Suzuki. So I hope you all can make it. Kayla Sensei, any final words before we say goodbye to our participants?
Well, I made a few notes here. I was thinking, if there are very many people left, I just thought it might be nice to have a few moments of silence together.
Nice.
And feel each other. That's what's so cool about Zoom and this what do you call it? This
live stream.
Yeah.
We've got about 15 people still on the live stream, so that's great. And this will be, now 17. This will live on afterwards too, by the way. So yeah, that's a nice idea.
Okay. And also just, again, my gratitude to you, Lia Sensei, for putting this together. It's really, as I said, it's an honor and a gift to get to be interviewed. It's always special to see what's going to come out spontaneously. Like if I get asked a question, what comes out, without knowing, sometimes without knowing ahead of time, sometimes with, but even in that spontaneous moment, what comes out when you're been doing something a long time.
Yeah.
That's the thing that maybe is what's important for me to
Mm-hmm.
also listen to and hear. I made some notes from some of the things you said, Lia Sensei, like chase down the senpai.
Nice.
I'm going to remind my students about that.
Nice.
Yeah, so how about if we take a few moments and just get our posture. Before we begin and end our class, I often say just find a good posture. Feel the bottom of your body dropping down into the earth. Bring your spine up tall. Feel the crown of your head reaching into the sky. Drop your chin so your crown can reach. Take some big, deep breaths coming into this present moment. And we can just sit together for, say, 30 seconds of silence or so. Or Lia Sensei, I'll let you chime in when you feel like we've had a good. Okay, so let's take some deep breaths together, opening the heart. Gotta turn my alarm off 1 second. Let's take 3 breaths together before we finish.
Mm-hmm.
And one thing that one of my meditation teachers taught me once was see if you can breathe the breath in through the top of your head and feel it go all the way down the center of your body. And then when you breathe out, let it go back up your spine and through the crown of your head. So let's try that 3 times, 3 big breaths together. Domo arigatou gozaimashita.
どうもありがとうございました。All right. Very nice. Thank you so much, everyone. And thank you so much, Kayla Sensei. Kayla Sensei, I'm going to end the broadcast, but you and I can stay on here and talk. So,
Okay.
Again, we had people from Brazil and from Berlin and the Netherlands and Los Angeles. And I'm scrolling up. Ohio in the USA, another Los Angeles, and a couple people I'm not even sure about still. But anyway, thank you so much, everyone. And hope to train with you someday soon. Hopefully Los Angeles. Well, no, somewhere, anywhere. All right. Thank you so much, everybody. Bye-bye.
Thank you. ありがとうございました。
ありがとうございました。